Hello, everybody. Welcome to my channel, Mr. Miracle Comics. And tonight we have Graders Notes. It shows up on my channel every couple months because tonight I'm hosting and I get to pick the book. The book I picked was, of course, the Maxx #1 for review. A 1993 sort of classic. I mean, man, I remember the old MTV Liquid television show of this book. That's kind of was my first introduction to the Maxx. Reading the comic book, how does it stand up to that? Anyways, I'm not the only one doing a review. I've got help, right? And I've got four helpers out here. I've got the Mighty Matarov, Comic Head 84, Genome Presents, and of course, you guys, the audience, our chat participation. We will ask you guys for a grade as well. And that will make up our meme total for, what we're going to give it for a grade for each of our categories. We're going to grade the cover, the interior, the story, the concept, and give it an overall grade for the book. And like I said, we need our chat's help. But let me introduce the rest of the guys. Starting out at #1, the man whose channel is built on reviews and do it yourself and do everything and whatever you can find and have a review and do some movies, and we'll have some cooking and all kinds of stuff. You can find it on Genome Presents. So let me get him in here.
I thought you were talking about Kenny's channel. What's going on, everyone? Thanks for having me on this august panel, as always. Great to be on Miracle's channel for a change. It's good to get on different channels, man. Might get a little different visuals from other people who might not otherwise come in. But yeah, good to be here. Good to be here. I was really stoked to do this one. I've been in a talking mood since I've taken kind of a small hiatus from YouTube in the last 2 weeks. So this is good.
I know that
it's catharsis.
I know that the 90s were your jam for comic books, so I was pretty sure you were gonna like this pick this week. Directly below me, that's Kenny, Comic Head 84. His channel is always spouting off the live streams, some of the best live streams that you can go on and enjoy almost every night of the week. Kenny, how do you feel about tonight's show, brother?
I'm psyched. I'm ready for action. Always pumped to do Graders Notes. When the Graders Notes crew assembles, man, you better buckle up.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is in your wheelhouse too. You were, in that age where you were buying them off the rack. I don't know if you bought this one in particular, but 84 is when you were born, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Now here's a man who goes back a little farther, but when we bring up 1990s comics with this man, he still has a plethora of knowledge about what's going on in the 90s. Matarov, please introduce yourself and tell us how you feel about tonight.
Oh, Cthulhu himself.
Oh, pulled out the Tales of Suspense at your door.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Look at the hairline. I mean, you talk to my barber. I mean, that is uncanny right there. Thank you so much, buddy. I love this more than you could ever know. I mean,
wow.
I've been having this on me for the past 2 days.
Dude, you're making me blush. That's not.
Well, no. This and Kenny with that Hulk 340.
I should have grabbed one. I know. I'm going to grab it later.
So thank you for that introduction. I'm starting a new dynamic with me, Miracle. If I pull this out during one of my segments, things are not going to go well for that segment.
Too bad luck there.
My alter ego. This is Monstro Metarog.
So are we flexing with our gracing of covers there?
Wow.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Hopefully Steve Whiting comes in and he can see the
yeah, that's Gino Punisher right there, and he can be pretty punishing here and there. So
we're kind of joyful.
But thank you. Yeah, at the 90s is when I was kind of in and out, but I'm ready for this one. I read it and read it good.
Uh-oh. I was big there.
All right, good. I'm glad everybody's ready. You guys will just have to put up with my crappy technology. I'm going to be flipping screens and doing whatever I can.
It's not easy emceeing. It isn't.
Oh, I know. It's oh man, really? I got to do stuff like this. Anyways, we'll get started with tonight's grading, and I think we'll just go to my Left? Yeah, okay, good. I'm looking at the right way. And we'll start with Dave. Dave, please tell us how you felt about the cover of this book.
All right, the cover. Let's see if I get too much glare. Let me pull this out of the poly real fast. My umbrella lights cast a hideous sheen upon everything. But all right, so here we go. Let's just put it this way. If this cover doesn't make you do a double take and at least pick it up to think about buying it, I don't think you have a pulse, because regardless of how you feel about the actual artistry of it, man, it just grabs you. I freaking love this trade dress and this blood splatter, this spud spatter thing going on. It really kind of, I don't know, juices up the reader, man. It's like, oh, what kind of freak do we have going on here? And then you have this like amorphous blob of a character here, and it's like interesting, you know. Now let's talk about some technical aspects of it. You know, the first thing, and this is going to sound really strange, but the first thing I thought of when I saw this cover was it looks like a love child if Matisse and Francis Bacon had gotten together and done a picture, because you got this like watercolored pastel thing going on with Maxx himself, and then you get like the disturbing undertones of like meaty blood spatter behind him and all that. So it's like it's just like an amalgamation of both of those artists somehow together. This cover pops. It's got a no background thing going on, but at least they made it black, which is a very nice touch, and also makes that red pop pretty well. What else? The character himself, I'm not huge on him. I can't tell what's going on. Like, those are his legs, right? Okay, apparently it's his legs of some kind. Not really sure, but what is this down here? That looks like one of his legs too, you know? So is that like a grassy sword? And what I'm not sure what's going on there, but the arms are extremely detailed, yet not so at the same time. It's so strange, man. This art style it looks almost unfinished, but it's not bad. I just can't figure out if I like it or not. And that's why I'm going to kind of ding this cover. It's actually the lowest score of the book for me, but it's definitely the most striking part of the book to me too. And, you know, the funny thing is the first thing I saw when I saw his face there, I thought of Death's head for whatever reason, if it ever would focus, but you can't see it too good in this, but because I don't have Dragon Claws number 5. But anyway, he's got the same downturned mouth and all that, and the same kind of, you know, semi-oval head, but it's cool. This thing has cool and style points written all over it. The art itself is not totally my cup of tea, but it's not horrible. And I tell you what, it does the most important thing you got to do to entice a person to buy your book, and it's make it look interesting and grab the eye. So all that being said, man, that's so tough for me. I'm going to give it a 3.5. Honestly, I couldn't decide whether to give it a 3 or 3.5 because he's not really doing anything. He's just kind of posing for one, and I typically ding it, but it's an interesting pose. So it's like, is he like a gorilla gymnast? What is this guy? What is going on with his hand? So it's interesting. 3.5, and I still don't know if I like it, but it is certainly cool. So yeah, 3.5. Thanks.
All right, 3.5. That's a pretty decent score. Pretty decent score for this cover in particularly. Let's drop down right below me, and we'll go with Metarog. Metarog, please tell us your review of the cover, bud.
Well, first of all, I'm going digital. So if one of you guys could hold it up for me.
Miracle, do you see my share screen thing in the bottom here?
Share screen.
Because that's what I'm going to do too, digital. It's like,
yeah, there should be a.
It's as if another person was going to join the screen.
Mm-hmm. Oh, right, I got you.
Kenny's got our backs.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, so
Kenny got back. Yep.
Yeah, well,
look at that.
That's an appropriate, actually, statement for here. This, you know, Gino, when I was listening to you, I sort of went through some of the same analysis, but I think I downgraded it for other reasons here because it definitely gets the job done. It's striking. You're right. You can't go by this and say, you know, well, it's definitely not alluring. I mean, it has color. It has, you know, a huge figure. And again, I don't know. Are those thighs? Are those hills? I mean, what are those purple things protruding from his sides, right? And then let's talk about that blood splatter in the back, right? it looks like he's having some kind of intestinal issue. That is what it looks like to me, and not a good one. So I think that I think that design idea is not really working for me. It's very odd, and it really it has ambivalence as to what it's supposed to be there for.
Yo quiero Taco Bell.
You know, this is the 90s, so of course everything is larger than life, in your face, and way brighter than it should be. So look at the Maxx; it's huge. You got another X on there because, of course, it has to be extreme. Image and the companies that came, especially Image, but some of the companies like Valley and so forth, were just so over the top with those things. And yeah, the figure is Sam Kieth, but boy, is it exaggerated. A little bitty head, no nose, inverted jaw, almost crab-like claws. I mean, it grabs you, literally grabs you. But it's also just a little bit too much for me. I don't like the overdone stuff, the over stylized stuff. It reeks to me like it's hiding something, that it's overcompensating for something that is not that good inside. So again, that blood splatter though, I cannot get that out of my head no matter what I do. But it's effective as far as grabbing your attention, true, but it's also a turn off and has some issues with the layout, certainly, and and the proportions as well. Just very, very confusing cover. That being said, you know, partly down, partly up. So I went smack in the middle, 2.5. Get the job done, but boy, is it disturbing on a certain level.
All right. It is kind of disturbing. Yeah, thanks, Mad Rob.
Yeah, I'll never get that out of my head now.
Now that you said that, that's all I could see.
Sorry about that.
I wasn't thinking that before, but now I'm like, even my grade just got a little lower right there. All right, so last of our visual panelists, well, I guess besides me, Kenny, you, sir, how did you feel about the cover?
Let's see, and if you could do the same for me as you did Meta, right?
Hang on.
I'm also digital.
Oh, that didn't work.
I'll just narrate the picture. That's cool.
There it is.
So, two things that I like about it is the color and the layout. So that the back shot of blood splatter, that didn't occur to me until just now, with Metarog pointed out. But I think he does a good job on this cover of using up the space on the cover well, and I like that big trade dress on the top, big old figure there, and like just that color scheme of this purple and yellow over the black background. Like all the color work is great. Really pops, like you said. It's totally got the aesthetic of 90s extreme attitude, MTV generation, like reeks from this thing. Which I don't know if it's good or bad, but it definitely, you know, it's not timeless. It's of the 90s. You know what I'm saying? Biggest gripe by far that's like, I just can't help focusing on it when I looked at the figure is like how little of the Maxx that he chooses to detail and render. Like, it, talk about unfinished, man. Like to put all that ink work and that muscle and the lines into his arms and like totally like completely skip rendering and adding muscle to anything on the back in those knees makes it look so odd. Like it, I don't know if you have to finish the deadline or something, but totally unfinished, like doesn't really make sense at all of why you would render the arm so much and not the other parts. So that's like, what a miss that is. I can't even chalk that up to that's his stylistic, because it just doesn't make sense. I do like the heavy shadow, like that little green patch, that green hill that he's standing on. Like there's such heavy shadow on it, you can I can see why you're like, is that a foot? Is that this or that? But once your eyes fixate on that it's a hill, I like that it's just a little subtle bit of green. And I dig that part of it quite a bit. But, you know, Sam Kieth, and I'll get into his artwork a little more when we get into it. He is a guy, admittedly, that I was not a big fan of growing up. I'd always be like, what's up with these Marvel Present comics? Who is this? Who draws these damn things? Like, they always seem so weird to me, and I didn't respond to them well as a youngin'. I have grown to appreciate an aspect of his work, but again, we'll put a pin in that. And so I do dig some of Keith's stuff. His Maxx work is probably some of the stuff that I like the least. I never liked the character design, and I never really liked much of what he did with it. So anyway, with all that being said, I did go down the middle to 2.5 on this. I was close to going lower to 2, but I gave it a lot of style points. The color work is good, and I didn't want to zing those things that I pointed too harshly. So 2.5, I'm with Metarog on this one, down the middle.
2.5.
First serviceable of the evening, or second one.
That's
actually.
pretty fair. Oh yeah, double serviceable already. Okay, well, I guess that brings up my turn. Put myself on the solo. Yeah, so this cover, man, like you guys hit on a lot of stuff I was going to talk about, like the lack of detail, and then the oddness of the detail, and then why is this like front heel like all in shadow, but not his hands? Like that makes it look weird, right? Like I don't know, is his hands supposed to be straight down? Is he getting some sort of reflection on them? His legs are crazy. I understand you want, like Keith has he has a drawing style where he skewers, the anatomy and stuff. And that's fine. Lots of artists do that and they make it work really well. But if you're going to do that, you have to be somewhat consistent in what you're doing, right? Like this is weird. And that little hill looks like it was added later. Like that was like, ooh, his feet are like way off. I better add a little hill behind him. Right now the blood stain just looks like a big red poop stain to me now. Right? Oh, I'm not too happy about that. The part about it I did like is the treatment, the Maxx. The way they write that up there, and it's just stark on black. There's nothing around or anything. I like the way it looks. It's very 90s, but it's cool. Like it's a cool thing. So that might have kind of drawn my attention, but I don't really feel like this comic book would have really been like, oh, what's that? One of those ones that I would grab. My eyes might stop on it for a second, but I'd probably pass by. Yeah, the detailing of the arms is like, you gotta be consistent, right? Like the detailing arms should have been the same detailing in the legs. Should have had other stuff going on. Like he's got a detailed face all the way down to like the little crinkles here, and then nothing. I mean, it's weird. And this is the cover. I dislike lazy covers. Again, it's not very creative. It's just a shot of the character, which is every first issue cover ever, right? With few exceptions. So, I can't give him any points for being extra creative over the cover or anything like that. So, yeah, I'm going to have to go ahead and give this one, the cover was my lowest score as well, and I gave it a 2, right? I was not impressed with the cover at all. And that brings us up to the chat, right? We're going to get the chat score and what they felt like the cover was like. Okay, well, we kind of have a little talk amongst ourselves, but there it is.
Who'd have thunk that I'd have the highest score in this group, huh?
Well, I'd have thunked it because I told you this is the 90s wheelhouse.
And you said that was your lowest grade of the night, so let's see Gino gush over this.
I know. And I was like, oh no.
Well, it's funny if you look at any of my videos, or if I talk about artists that I like very traditional artists that don't go crazy with anatomy and don't get too stylistic. That's why I like Jim Lee and all that. But when you start getting to like the Texiras and the Keiths and all that, usually those are much further down in my echelons of art. This one, I gotta admit, it struck me. It was like I would definitely do a double take just looking at it, maybe just to find where the rest of the detail is on the cover. But I definitely would have given it a second look, passing by it on the newsstand. So
it's effective as far as drawing your attention with the color palettes and the dynamicism of the pose and the huge figure. You know, I always feel like, you know, his thighs back there, you can twirl them, you know, like a propeller. It's just so odd. And so, you know, like you guys said, that it lacks detail. So it almost looks like it's not part of him, and well, except for the color. But it definitely gets the job done. It gets your attention, and that trade dress is very eye-catching.
Yeah, it feels great because the type of Sam Kieth work that I like, my favorite work of his is with Wolverine. And the things that I like about it is he's a lot of line, lot of rendering type of guy. Like you can stare at some of his Wolverine work and he's getting like every hair on his arm in there and like tons of muscle and lots of detail. And it comes to an overall pretty gnarly image. And like all that stuff that I like about Kieth is missing in this. If you rendered the whole body like you did the arms, I might have appreciated that Maxx drawing more, but like, dude, what happened?
You know, every time I look at it, I think antlion. That's the first thing I think of when I see this thing. It just looks like one. If you take his head off there, that's what it looks like.
You think of what?
An antlion. Looks just like an antlion.
An antlion.
And the mandible's an antlion, that is.
Yeah.
From Final Fantasy.
Oh yeah, they're in Final Fantasy too. But actually, we had them in Florida. They dig like little cone-shaped holes all over the ground, and they trap ants in them. So we sit around.
I mean, that thing's real.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It's so small. It's like the size of the end of your pinky.
They're microscopic, but they're real. Yeah.
They're microscopic. Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're teeny tiny little thing. Yeah.
Oh, a little bug. An antlion.
Yeah.
Antlions. They're fun for us country folk to feed. You know, gives you something to do on boring nights.
You can feed the ants.
You feed the ants to them. it's a larval form of the finished product. I think they turned to damselflies or something. I can't remember what, but
anyway, back to comic books.
Yeah.
That was
the entomology lesson is over.
Well, he says
we go off on all kinds of topics here. All right. So we got enough chat grades in there?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Did you guys give him an add up?
Not yet.
Are you doing these? Here. So.
Actually, someone want to read them to me? And
yeah.
Then I'll,
Okay. Here we go. We got a 2. We got a 1. We got a 2. We got a 4. Another 4. A 3.5. A 1.5. And another 4. All over the place.
What did it come out to?
2.5 by Steve Whiting just came in under the wire.
Well, it's too late. Actually, let's see, 2.5. The score is a 2.75 here. Normally, you got to round up.
Oh,
I'm not sure what the 2.5 would have done here.
Move it down.
2.5. Let's see if it's serviceable. It seems to be in keeping with most of the graders tonight. So 2.5. I think the reason Dave was confused on the antlion being small is because the antlions in Final Fantasy XI were like enormous. They were size of Buicks. They were just huge. But
yeah, or Dungeons and Dragons, and they're huge. Anyway, forget that. Forget about the little bugs.
No more bugs.
No more bugs. Oh, there'll be some bugs, just not that kind of bug. Anyway, let's continue on, and we'll talk about the interior art. Now, cover didn't score too well here. How do we figure the interior? Is it going to improve? Is it going to be more of the same? And this time I will start with Roger. Will you please tell us how you felt about Mr. Kieth's interior?
Could you put up the
deal again?
Graphic again there? Yeah.
Let's remove it. Go.
Okay, good. Right there. Splash page. Again, it's more of the same for me because it's a balance that I'm trying to strike here. Generally speaking, I am not a fan of the image overhype and over stylized stuff. But let me go through this and tell you what I'm thinking. That first page right there, where the panel layouts here are just so awkward here. I mean, is this a key? Is this a puzzle piece? Is there some hidden, innuendo in the form of this panel? I don't know, but I do like the dingy and the way that he portrays the dark aspects of this universe, essentially. And then he's got this chung going on, which I think is what is going on in his head, because he's obviously having some issues, which I'm going to get to in the story. Go on to the next page. He draws the ladies very, very, sexualized, which again may be problematic when I go to the story. And then the you can tell the bad guys, they're malformed, they're loopy, they're just, you can tell that they are no good, right? But again, we get these weird panel layouts, one that looks like a hammer or something with the coin flipping down. And then we have these very tall, almost like pillars, which have some good aspects to them, but the stories can sometimes be lost because there's so little art in there. Go on to the next one. Again, he has this thing with the heavy inking and that that lupine or that almost like ape-like form of the bad guys, the criminals. But then we have the Maxx, which is, again, I have problems with his design, but he does a good job of rendering him as is. Good line work, good little inking, and I like that you actually get to see him in the limelight there. And then notice the police officers are always kind of like in the shadows. You never see a good picture of them. And the villain here is the same thing. So again, I'm going to get into the story elements where I think there's some problems with the issues that he is, I think, ostensibly talking about. Again, good, the weird panel designs again, but the story does flow pretty good here. Next one. Again, notice the police officers, they're obscured. You don't see their features. I think that's on purpose, and I'm going to get to that in the story. And again, dingy, you kind of get the notice that this universe is kind of unkempt and kind of chaotic, right? And there he is, fully rendered. Again, a kind of a weird slashes in there, puzzle piece kind of layout. It's kind of distracting to me, and that's why this grade got dinged. Go on to the next. I'm only going to talk a little bit. Now we get to the other world that he either imagines or he actually exists in. Notice it's all light, unlike the dark world. And he has a mane now. It's almost like a different persona. Go to the next one, and you're going to see these little hands coming up. Notice they're white here, but in the universe where most of the story takes up, they're black. Again, we're talking about some subtle hints and allegories here. Go on to the next one. Again, very dark, though, when he's actually mean and fighting. And this pose down here is problematic. He's fighting, he's striking up. There's some kind of blood splatter, but it doesn't seem to be hitting anything. I'm not sure what's going on here. However, that leopard is beautifully drawn, great detail. I mean, he took a lot of time on that. Absolutely great stuff there. Okay, I think I can quit here. I don't think I have to keep going. The story is where I'm going to really detail like this over sexualization of the females, etc. But overall, this is the pluses. The art is fairly appropriate for this kind of noirish, it reminded me almost like the Spirit, Will Eisner, but in a much more creepy kind of reality. The panel layouts, I hated. They're confusing. They were distracting because I was trying to figure out what they were, and so that distracted me from the story elements, right? And those things where he started chopping, and there's one that looks like a knife. That's clever, but again, it's clever, but it's above where he had to do. He had to focus more on the story element art take parts rather than the stylized. Which, again, the problems I have with Image is that it's all style and very little substance. This one does have substance, though. So, again, I'm going to give this the same score as the cover because it does good for the appropriateness of this type of story, of that chaotic and kind of confusing, weird world. But the story element the way that he's portraying them and those panel layouts can be so confusing and very hard to follow, and just too overly stylized on certain parts. Some of the criminals look so misshapen and misanthropic that it's just so far out there that I'm not sure if he's perceiving it like that or if this is the way they look in this world. So again, overall, pluses and minuses. The art is appropriate for the story type, but the layouts and the over stylization is just too much for me. 2.5.
You're muted, Miracle.
Better? There you go. So 2.5. The serviceables continue to roll tonight. People seem to be right on the fence. We're going to continue on, and we're going to go over to Kenny. Kenny, brother, how do you feel about the interior art? Keith, redeem himself in your eyes?
Yeah, let's fire up the visual aid. Okay, so I agree with Metarog on some things. Let me get the things I don't like out the way, because first, I generally am not a fan of people messing with panel design. Usually, to me, it's almost always a miss, in my opinion. You got to be pretty damn skilled to pull that off in a way that I really respect and appreciate. And not only and most people just try to pull that shit sometimes, and in this book, he does it every single page. We have to deal with these really just kind of silly panel structures. I don't think it adds much to the storytelling. I don't like it. It leaves a lot of dead space on the pages because he gets really out there with it. I generally am annoyed by people that really go to town on these panel designs. There's some books that do it well. This book is not one of them. I'm also not a big fan of the Maxx's character design. I never really dug it. Just never did it for me. So I don't really get too hyped for the Maxx himself as a character. I never really liked Maxx as a character. Now, with that out the way, I mentioned before that growing up, I always used to be like, what is this trash? I didn't respond to Sam Kieth stuff. I didn't like it. I always thought it didn't look right. It's like, that's not the way you're supposed to draw. He doesn't draw good because everything looks wonky and it's weird, and I didn't appreciate it. As I've, read more and been exposed to more of the hobby and more of the artists, I really have grown an appreciation for Sam Kieth. I think he is one of the best inkers in the game. I love Sam Kieth's inking game. I think he is like, he uses it in a really unique way. I like the drastic brushstrokes. You see a lot of that here. And he does, and like when he really gets into his like muscle definition mode, and when he's rendering, like these big buff guys like Maxx or like Wolverine. Like I said, Wolverine's my favorite stuff of his. He like really nails it. I really like his inking. And I also have grown to appreciate his stylistic approach to the art too. Like on this page, the lower half, this page is guilty kind of what the cover was of. I like Kieth when he's going to town and he's not leaving any bit of the page unworked on. I like heavy lines from Kieth. I like lots of details, lots of use of ink. And like this is like the top half of this page. I don't like all that shiny, smooth real estate. I like Kieth what he's doing down on the bottom part of this page. Lots of ink work, lots of lines, lots of detail. I think that's like that gritty style that Metarog was noticing from this book. He has like a grittiness to it that I really like. Let me skip to this here. Like even that action pose, like when I'm looking at Kieth stuff, the last thing I'm worried about is anatomy or anything like this. Certain artists that when I feel like you're trying to draw in a classic style and you botch anatomy, I'll rag you for it. When you're going for stylistic, I feel like you throw the rules out the window. You know, when I feel like a guy's like, all right, we're not living by these rules, we're doing Sam Kieth style or whomever, Sienkiewicz style, I'm not worried about that. So I put him in that club, and I just like to see him do his thing and be creative. I really dig the way that he draws women. Roger's right. It's very sexualized. But what can I say? You know what I'm saying? That's right up my alley. Okay. I think they just have great style to them. It's great. I love seeing a babe drawn well, you know? And I've always loved it. And it's a unique style. It doesn't look like your standard bodacious image babe, you know, from like a Liefeld, big old jugs, tiny waist, big long legs, like a, what's his name? J. Scott Campbell. Mm-hmm. He didn't do that style that was beaten into the ground by a lot of those image guys. He has, they are voluptuous, but it's more his own style. And I think they look cool. Like I think a girl could look at this drawing and say, oh, that girl looks cool. You know, the style to it. And it's not just like these exaggerated, like J. Scott Campbell, like a chick that I don't think a chick looks at those big J. Scott Campbell type drawings and says, oh, she looks cool. She just looks like a big, long-legged, big, jugged eye candy for men. You know, I think Sam Kieth is a notch above that. I think he's actually making these chicks look pretty cool and stylized. And yeah, man, I really enjoy the artwork in this book. I hate, here's another, these panels, this panel's layout sucks.
Like stinks.
Pointless. What's the point? So stupid. It really annoys me when the guys do that. This is that image style over substance, I gotta say, you know. They just try to be as stylized as possible because it's like, let's this is what the kids are doing. Let's be irreverent. Let's turn things on their heads. You know, some things, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, brother. And lastly, I'll leave you on this. I really loved when this bad guy shows up with the super long cape, when he shows up in the laundromat, the way he has his cape sprawl through the laundromat. I love the way that he played with the shadowing and the way that the cape drapes over the washing machines and just like clings to everything in the room. I thought he did some really interesting stuff rendering that, and I really dug it. So with all that being said, I'm a fan. Like, really strongly hate the panel layout, but besides that, I don't strongly dislike really anything in this. I like going along for the ride. I appreciate the uniqueness. I think he's basically a master in comic book inking. You know, that might be a hot take, but I think Sam Kieth is an inking master. I really dig it. And I landed on a 3.5 on this.
3.5?
Yeah.
Holy moly. Wow. Just gush over the guy, why don't you, Kenny? Jeez.
Yeah.
All I can say is go take a look at his illustrations of the Hulk. And tell me you're still a fan of him. Terrible. All right, so I'm up. I'm going to give it a whirl here on the interior. I'll do it solo because I have the book. So yeah, there was some, like, Kenny made some good points and some lots of not so good points because, yeah, like the panel layout stuff, I thought that was like a lot of the least of our issues here with this issue. It's annoying, all these panel layouts going left, right, and in these weird shapes. I do like it when artists kind of take a little bit of a creative stance with that, but it still has to be a little bit readable, right? Like the way these panels lay out, sometimes it makes the comic book like, whoa, what am I looking at here? Right? Like it's cutting out big parts of it and stuff. But it's consistency. It's consistency. With this kind of art, you have to be consistent with it all the way through. You can't have certain parts rendered out really well and other parts all in this weird style. Yeah, like here she looks like one person. Go a few pages ahead, and she looks like a completely different girl, right? Like it's hard to tell that this girl is the same girl, right? So there's no consistency, and it's weird. It's some of it's weirdly done, and it's not done well. I don't know if he was getting into it, like he just needed more practice with this. But like you take a look at a guy like Bill Sienkiewicz, and he's very consistent with his, like he skews everything up, but he's very, very consistent with it throughout whatever comic book he's drawing or a comic book cover. He has a very consistent look to his stuff, and he's not jumping back and forth. People are, like I'm not worried too much about the anatomy here. Then sometimes I am, because he's trying to put good anatomy here, and then in the next panel it's gone. Maxx is weird. Like he doesn't look good as a character. This, like, I suppose he's like a rabbit. They keep calling him Lapin, right? Which is Latin for rabbit. And then, or French, Lapin. Anyway, yeah, like some of the stuff I know was purposely done, but it really does kind of look, like I said, if anybody remembers this from MTV, I'm not sure. It does look like the animated show, even though the book came out first, I believe, or did it? Is it this just a rehash of it? Anyway, yeah, I thought maybe he's going to get better. He does get a lot of detail. You do get this really gritty feeling from like the real world that the Maxx is in. Kenny was right. That one panel right there, I did quite like that one panel, but that's it, right? The rest of it is just weird. And in the Maxx changes, sometimes he's got a big mouth, sometimes he's got a little mouth, and then not like changes from one part of the comic book to another, like one panel next to each other, he changes. Yeah, and then sometimes I think it's over inked, too dark. Like you're not even sure exactly what you're even looking at all, right? Like all this stuff. The splash page at the end was kind of cool, but then again, he did that whole cape thing, which he obviously stole from Todd McFarlane, right? We all know I'm not a particularly fan of, although McFarlane does do good capes. I'll give him that one. How's that? I can see he can do a cape pretty good. So I guess that's why a lot of artists like rip off his cape work, including Sam Kieth here. It always just seems like it's stretching a lot to me. Like, oh, this would be cool. I'm going to put that in because this will be cool. Like he's always trying too hard to be cool, right? To make the Maxx the coolest thing ever, and his art the coolest thing ever, even though it's obviously not at all. Yeah, she is very inconsistent. Very. Anyways, I gave the interior 2.5. It did have a few things that I liked. Some of the big splash pages were good. There was a lot more detail. The inking, for the most part, is good. And I do like that sort of sense of switching back and forth, like with the dark light. You get a very different feel when Maxx goes to the other part, like without revealing too much of the story until the next part. So he did that. Some of the action sequences are pretty good, right? You do feel the action with it. Lots of them aren't. The one that he's very good at drawing things that are like sinister, right? Like you get a real sinister sense from a lot of the drawings that he's doing, and that's kind of what he's trying to convey. So that's good in its way. So yeah, I gave it a 2.5. It got me through the comic book, but it's better than the cover. Is that a fair assessment? That's about it. His Todd McFarlane
praise there.
His Todd McFarlane capes are good. So, anyways, 2.5 for me. Continuing on with our last reviewer of the evening on our panel here, Mr. Gino presents. How did you feel about the interior? I know you were a huge fan of the cover, and you go to sleep with it under your pillow every night. But how do you feel about the interior?
I never thought I'd be like defending this sort of art style, right? Because like I said, I like, Neil Adams. I like Jim Lee. I like, Kirby. I like just mostly normal looking characters and the artists that don't try too hard to make them look wacky, But I don't know, something just kind of grabbed me about this book. But I'm gonna take a little bit back to a history lesson in some defense of the panel layout. It is distracting, all right? I didn't find it overly hard to read. It does make you do a double take sometimes. Not a huge deal. But remember when we did Batman 251, right? And if you noticed in that book that whenever a Joker panel came on, it was usually fractured. The panel was fractured and weird. I think it was a good way to convey the psyche of the Joker as, he's broken. He's a broken mind, right? And I thought it was very effective, if not a subtle way of doing it. I think this book is taking that to like the umpth degree because this entire thing is like a mindscape kind of book, right? So I think that's something what they were going for. I know they were going for style points. I'm not going to try to overanalyze that and make excuses for them. But I think that's some of it. And I think the fractured psyche of this Maxx fellow here is conveyed a lot through those panels. But look at this, man. This might be my favorite panel in the book. Is him just laying on this dingy police cruiser's back seat, man. It's just so good. He's huddled in his fetal position. His mind is warped. Who knows what's going on? I think it's just great. Very next page, splash page. I'd hang that poster on my wall. I think that's just, it's funky as it is, I still like it, and it's like I said, it's not my type of art. I won't go into too much more. One thing, and Dave brought this up too, it really bugs me is like, not even page to page, her face doesn't match up on any of these pages at all. It goes from like super pancake to somewhat normal. And it's like that with most of the characters in this book. It's just, there's no consistency of how they're drawn. Once again, is it intentional? Like to show the fractured reality that Maxx is occurring in? I don't know, but I like this. I love this cutout here. Like she's in the street light. I think that's just really cool. He has a good sense of distance. I noticed that in a lot of his drawings here. I won't tell too much more because y'all got most of the points. Yeah, everyone, of course, that freaking cloak is amazing in the laundry room. Like what makes it really cool, and Kenny said that it looks like it's gripping. It looks like this cape has weight. It's not just floating there, superhero style. But I think there's a lot of good stuff in this book. I was pleasantly surprised by it. Oh my gosh, this is freaking incredible, dude. Where'd he go? Hold it right here. I'd like that. I don't know if I like the character design of Maxx, but that just looks cool, man. It looks like, Mobius on a night out after a bender or something. Like I said, it's not normally my art style, but I like it. I think it just works for this character, and I think it kind of works because of. We'll talk about this a little bit in the story itself. I think the art, a lot of it is stylized as he is just rendered that way because of this mind-bending thing that the Maxx is going with. So I know I said that the cover was my lowest score, but I actually bumped up a half point. I give a 3.5 to the interior art as well. Because while it's not normally my cup of tea, I cannot deny that there's a lot of detail in there. It's maybe the grungiest book I've ever read. Like, he's in that city, and just I can see it. That city is a lot like, what movie was that? With Brandon Lee, The Crow, whatever. Everything's all dingy and wet and dirty looking, and it just works. And like you said, Medrog too, the transition between lights and darks is also very telling of the book. Nice little sly nod, and like the policemen are always in silhouette and in shadow. You can't see them, so it's like they don't really stop anything, right? But once again, maybe over analyzing. 3.5, I kind of liked it. It's not stupendous as far as my ratings go, but I don't typically like this type of art, and so I scored it a little higher than I thought it would. So 3.5.
3.5, highest score ever for this comic book.
What'd you give it? 3.5?
3.5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I
of course,
forgot.
Kenny went with it. Yeah.
And I didn't bring it up because Kenny did a good job with it. The inking, I think, is probably the best part of this.
Yeah, I like his inking. Yeah.
And he doesn't, but he doesn't. I don't think he's like a brush inker. I think he's like a pen inker because, like, I don't know. It's just weird how he's doing it in there. I liked it though.
I could just see him in there with the Sharpie. All right. Well, let's turn it over to the chat and see how they felt about the interior art of this guy. We'll see where our chat scores land. Let me just type it in the chat. Vote you Jerks.
Got some interesting comments in there.
Yeah.
It's this kind of style of art. Like I said, it has to be consistent, or it looks like it's just wrong. Like it's like, oh, he's doing some style. Oh wait, no, this panel's totally different. No, this panel's, he just doesn't know how to draw. That's just, whatever.
It's very chaotic. The style, again, the sizes and proportions seems to change here and there. But again, I think, I don't want to make an excuse because I don't know this for a fact, but I think it's because the story and the character itself are under a lot of chaos. It's sort of okay because it sort of fits the character and the story elements. That's why I didn't find it that distracting. But those panel layouts really distracted me because I kept trying to figure out what he was doing, and that just and that just put me, I have few neurons left as it is. So trying to focus on that and the story elements and the art just was over. It blew my mind in a very negative sense.
It's too many stylistic liberties. Like I can, we're talking art here, so I'm okay with guys, getting outside the box with it. And he is definitely intentionally messes with proportions and make things look wonky. But to do that plus make the panel shapes and stuff wonky, it's too much. Like you should have an exaggerated style and then conventional panels. I think you'd appreciate the art more, but it's like it's a little too much going on. He doesn't do that panel stuff as much in like the Marvel Presents.
No.
Stuff.
No, the editor probably said, "Oh, hold on a second."
Yeah, which is that's
six per page.
Yeah. This book needed an editor,
I meant to say he snuck Wolverine in there too. That's totally Wolverine right there.
They don't even have editors at Image at this time, do they?
No, they didn't. They were all self-editing, right? I think.
Free reign.
Like I was just gonna say, like this is a prime example of what an editor needs to do to go back.
They had writers.
Yeah.
Woo!
It's just the artists writing their own stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Creator stuff. Yep.
Creator artist stuff. Yeah.
Anything goes.
I think this cat on the back is much better.
Yeah. I really like the leopard.
He can be hit and miss. I totally like same thing with Sienkiewicz. There's some Sienkiewicz stuff that I think sucks. And there's some stuff that I'm like, he's a genius. So it's like I kind of Keith in that box too, where I'm like, this is just bad. But there's some stuff I'm like, wow, this is really creative and really well done. So he's hit or miss.
Fair enough. I mean, some of Sienkiewicz's stuff can be off, but generally it's pretty. You're like, wow, like how does he even manage to do this and make it look right? You know what I mean? Like that Batman fucking anniversary cover and stuff that he's done, and crazy. Bill Sienkiewicz.
Oh no. Biggie Shaq's crusade against John Buscema must be stopped. I hope you're not comparing Sam Kieth to the great John Buscema, my friend. Good. I'm going to give him heart palpitations.
He just slapped his laptop. He was so pissed.
Knocked me.
Jane Buscema, he says. Oh.
Jane Buscema. Hilarious. Oh, Biggie. Should I ban him?
Biggie's spicy tonight.
Banhammer.
Should I ban him from my channel?
No.
Can't be bashing Big John
all
here.
views, no matter how unpopular here.
Yeah, you can ban McFarlane all you want. Lovers,
I would.
Yeah, but you can't be banning Big John.
No. So what's the score there?
Fine. Let's add up the chat first.
Last chance for your score. I'm fixing to tabulate, so. Okay, about 10 seconds.
I got a feeling it's a little higher than I thought.
I think it's going to be. A lot of fours in there. Yeah. It's going to skew the numbers a bit. Actually, there's only 1, 2, so. All right. Hold your peace, everybody. So.
Fours.
Looks like it hits a 3.
Nice. Wow.
suppose.
Oh,
I mean, like I said,
Miracle fixing to bag everyone, huh? Oh,
it's you know, if it's your cup of tea. If you like the stuff, it's fine. For me, it seems just a little too off. He's trying too hard. Anyway, we will move along then, and we will hit the story part of this. So, also written by Keith, right? So these guys were creator, artist, writer on all of these books at Image at this time. So, is he a better writer than an artist? Does his writing, match up, or is he going to fall flat? This time, Kenny, we'll start with you. How do you feel about Mr. Keith's writing on this book?
Well, like most 90s Image books, the writing, in a word, sucks. And this almost will bleed into like my concept kind of thoughts too. Is it just reminds us and highlights that Image Comics was an artist-driven outing. You know what I'm saying? I'm a fan of Image, even if some of the books I don't like and all that. I loved the entrepreneurial spirit. I love the creative control. And as I get older, and maybe wiser and more understanding, I have grown to appreciate some of the stuff that I kind of passed on, like the Sam Kieth. This is the first time I'm reading this book because I didn't like it as a youngin', and I've even grown to appreciate stuff from like Liefeld and McFarlane. I'm still not big fans of them, but I appreciate what they were going for. Young kids with no formal training, it shows, but no formal training, and I just appreciate the spirit in some of that stuff. Anyway, but they didn't bring any writers on. Like, it was the last day. There was just all style, no real writing substance. It's almost funny when you think of like, hey, let's all start a business, but we ain't gonna bring any like writing heavyweight to the table. So I'm getting sidetracked. This story, I don't really like, as far as what's going on with the Maxx, like I don't empathize with the guy. He just seems like a brute with very simple thought narration balloons. Like, I don't have any sense of what the guy wants, his personality. For a title character, he's like as bland a character in the book as you can get. Biggie said something earlier that maybe there's like a twist at the end of the series that'll make all that make sense, but I can only gauge on what I read in this book. And I just found the Maxx character to be very uninteresting. The only one thing I thought was clever with him was like, you're reading narration bubbles and then other character responds to it. And he's like, oh crap, I said that out loud. And I really dug that. I don't remember ever seeing that trope used in a comic before that I could think of. And I really got a kick out of that. So clever points there, because it kind of throws you off like, oh shoots, that guy heard that narration block. So that was cool, but generally uninteresting, just gritty. Things are tough. They hit the point with, I suspect Metarog might touch on this a little more in his review, but I have to acknowledge the Penny, I think, like twice in the book, maybe 3 times, but twice in the book, like brushing off the women getting raped in the city as they're asking for trouble or they need to toughen up. I thought that was a weird take for her character. So I was like, okay, I guess so. The bad guy seems very generic. He has a Spawn cape. It's a bald guy in a Spawn cape. I don't know what his desires are. I don't know what's going on with him. I was more paying attention to the art going through it because there was really nothing for me to really chew on in the writing. So that is white paint on my shirt, Bill. This is like I did some work around the house with this last year. And this is a lounge around the house shirt. So closing thoughts on the writing. I was going to make one last point. Oh, I have to acknowledge that I get that in the first issue, you're not supposed to have all the characters figured out. Like, I get it. This stuff has to some are more of a slow burn, and you're gonna learn the characters' motivations and stuff as you read, no doubt. But you usually hook the reader with something, with a basic, here's this guy's deal, here's that guy's deal, and give you a sense of personality. And they gave you nothing in this first issue. So if they do wait to really deliver the characters' motivations and more of what's really going on with them until issue 3, 4, 5, then that's a big mistake as a writer, because you didn't hook me in front and center. The art is not going to hook me in for another issue. I'm not interested in reading issue 2. So yeah, I was not very impressed with the writing at all. I gave it a 1.5 because at the very least I didn't really find it confusing. I understood what was going on. He went into Dreamland. I liked that he lived in a cardboard box. I was like, that's creative. That's cool. I've never seen that before. This big, massive guy in a little box was a cool concept. So I don't want to give it like a goose egg or anything. Some cool things here and there, but overall 1.5. Nothing really to see here.
All right, interesting score, sir. 1.5 is pretty low.
Pretty low.
So you've done an about face on his writing here compared to his art.
Yeah.
Well, now you see, I went the opposite way again. Right, I was not a fan of the art. I thought the story was much better. Right, we got the Maxx. He's obviously some crazy homeless guy, down on his luck, somehow tied to this other girl. She's kind of a weird, slutty social worker. All of this stuff, and especially with the switching of the back and forth between our world and what Maxx is perceiving as this sunshiny jungle savannah world. Well, Australia, that's what it was. I forgot Australia, right out on the outback. And then you're bringing in these dark characters, and I'm like, okay, whoa, this guy is over the top dark. He's murderer, rapist, bad guy, out to get the Maxx for some reason, and for some reason he knows the Maxx, and the Maxx doesn't know him. Maxx doesn't really remember anything. So, to me, he brought in a lot of elements where it's okay, a little bit about what's going on with the Maxx. We know he's a crazy person. We know he's tied to this social worker. We know he's always in trouble with the cops. There's something his life is not on easy street. And then we bring in, but here he's this warrior guy in Australia in this other dream world. And then there's these weird guys that are both coming in both worlds. They come in both worlds. And to me, it gave me enough to keep wanting more, right? And it also gave me enough to know that there is more, right? There's going to be more. There has to be more. So I thought the writing was head and shoulders above the artwork, in my opinion. I can see, based on the writing, why they would take this and adapt it for an animated series, right? Especially in that whole Liquid Television was supposed to be avant-garde. They had Eon Flux and all that kind of weird stuff on there. And so I thought that the story was much better, much better. I am interested in what's going on, why the two of them are flipping back and forth between, what's perceived as our reality, what we expect, what we assume is reality for the Maxx, in this gritty world as opposed to, what's going on in his weird mind. The speaking out loud stuff always got me. It's damn, that was out loud, right? It's, so he's put in a little bit of humor without, which must have been tough to do in such a dark book, right? It's a really very dark story about serial killer, rapist, homeless people, weirdos attacking, April, and all kinds of weird stuff that's going on here. Murder, darkness, evil people, evil little guys. So there's quite a lot of darkness in here, but he still manages to toss in a little bit of humor once in a while without, making light of the book. So I thought that was good. I thought there was some really good story elements in here. I thought it moved along. Couple of things I didn't like. it's almost too much like what's going on with the Maxx, right? Like again, it gives me enough to know that there is more, but I'm like, man, like this guy's just a weirdo. Like, I don't know. So I took a couple points off, but I actually gave the story of this book 4, right? I really liked it. I actually went and dug up issue number 2 of my LCS today, and I'm gonna, read that later because I did want to know more. And so for me, I thought the story was great. I really enjoyed it. Really want to read the next issue. It's even pulling me past Keith's art to, buy the second issue of this guy and take it on. So for me, it was a 4, boys. I know you may all can attack me at will now if you like.
Shots fired. Shots fired.
Well, see, look, with the way that lines up, that makes the way that Metarogs and Comics said, it's like a Keith panel.
Maybe, who knows?
But continuing on, we are going to drop down and we are going to go with Dave. Dave, we're going to go over to the side, so we're not going to drop down. But Dave, it's your turn. You're up next. How did you feel about the story? We know you just gushed and gushed. You couldn't believe how wonderful the art was. Did the story stand up for you as well?
Well, there's nothing that pains me more to admit this, but Dave is absolutely right. I love the story of this book, and it does 2 amazing things, I think, for a first edition or a first issue, right? 1, it makes you want to buy another issue to find out what's going on. I think it do it very well. Remember when we did New Warriors and okay, the team's assembled, now what? Who cares? It was like totally wrapped up. It could have been 1 issue and it would have been complete. This one makes you want, other than Sunspot and Gideon, that stupid side story, whatever, but this one, I want to find what's going on. I like it. But remember how it was so weird in that Raver book, him jumping around, and made no sense. This one actually does make sense. And I liked it. And the let's see, there was 2 points to be made there. I can't remember what the second one was, but whatever the case may be. Oh yeah, and it doesn't fall into first issue-itis. What can the Maxx do? He looks big and brawny, but he doesn't. There's like 2 action panels in this book, so we don't really know what his power set is. I dig it. It's something to look forward to, right? But it didn't need it. I guess the argument could be made that you don't really know Maxx at the end of this book. So, I mean, if that bothers you, I guess that could be a problem. It didn't really bother me any. I was intrigued to find out more, actually. There's this great line in here. It's when he's stopping the first criminals, right? And there's this whole theme of like the coin flip, right? So this is like a lot of like little snide images of duality in this book, but this one really, he like crushes the coin that hits the ground. And he's like, usually it's fate, but sometimes it's me. I love that freaking little panel. That's like a Punisher kind of panel right there. Something that would close out a Punisher book. But something else that was interesting too in the dream state, that he apparently, I don't know if he's in that almost full time or what. It's hard to discern that. But I don't know if any of you guys ever played BioShock before, but the little what are they called? The little sisters, the little girls that are full that have that slug or whatever in them. They see the world completely stylized. Like everything is like peachy keen and there's butterflies and rainbows everywhere, even though they're like in an underground rotting city or an undersea rotting city, right? So I think that's a lot of what the Maxx sees here, but he's in an awful spot. It starts off that he's living obviously in a cardboard box. So it's like, this guy's homeless. He's down on his luck. I like it. So, but it would make sense that he would be out there fighting street level crime, right? Because he's out there on the streets, and the police have obviously dealt with him. Like a lot of times they deal with homeless people. They know him by name, because they're always picking him up in his case for violence or whatever. But they're not too hard on him. I mean, they throw him in prison, but there's almost like a Batman kind of thing going on. It's like, I think they can appreciate what he's doing out there, whatever it is he's doing out there. And then he's got that really wacky social worker sidekick, right? And that's his Alfred or something. So maybe this guy's Batman. I don't know, whatever. But I just thought it was a cool thing. This guy is obviously got a fractured psyche. He's living on the streets probably, but he can't stop himself from doing it. Like sometimes I think he took a lot of references here from people, from homeless people, because a lot of times you can take homeless people out, put them in a night or decent shelter or whatever, and they go right back onto the street. It's just, that's their frame of mind. And whether he's doing that to be a hero or it just wrote, whatever the case may be, I just found it interesting. So I won't gush too much onto it. I mean, there are some loose ends, and it's not always completely coherent, but I kind of enjoyed it. And I don't like image books. Really, I've never really been fans of any of the ones we reviewed or the ones I saw back in the day. But I kind of dug it. I mean, I liked it better than the art as well. But it was good. It did what it needed to do. Maybe want to read issue 2. So I'm gonna give it a 4 as well. I never thought I'd say that, but there it is, 4.
Nice. 4. See, now you're getting on board. Getting on the winning train here, buddy. So last but certainly not least on our panel, Metarog. So far, you have not been a fan of this book. Did the story change it around, turn it around for you? Like for me, I wasn't a fan, but I actually was pretty impressed with the story. How did you feel about it, sir?
This segment is going to be brought to you by Monstro Metarog. This disclaimer is that Metarog is taking this segment off, and he will be replaced with Monstro Metarog for the following reasons. I think that both Davids read another comic than I did. And I'll tell you why.
Get him, Roger.
Because you said there's a few loose ends, Gino. There is nothing but dead ends in this comic book because it resolves nothing, it starts very little, and is as about amorphous as you can get. But the main problem I have with the story are the subtext and undertones that are present here. Sam Kieth did the story, but notice that William Messner-Loebs did the dialogue. There's a big disconnect here. Okay, Messner-Loebs tried to bring this to a more humanistic level, and I think Kieth had a much more existential level. The portrayal of women here is honestly insulting. The social worker, my wife is a social worker, okay, was portrayed almost like a prostitute, and his overtones about the governmental system and its inadequacies for mental illness and the homeless are very, very dark, okay? The way that he portrays the policemen are clueless, are without any kind of logic or any kind of application of, shall we say, normalcy. It was all chaotic. If somebody has been charged various times, like the Maxx was, and is charged again for serious crimes, and he is bailed out the next day without even any there was no like notice or anything like that, or no tracker, nothing. He's just free, you know. So it's a total disregard, I think, for society and civility here. And honestly, it's to me it was insulting. The lady at the beginning, it's obviously there was a conspiracy. She was dropped off at the wrong place on purpose, okay, and then she was going to be raped or robbed or whatever, and then she's saved by the Maxx, but she really isn't, because the policemen don't remember her, okay, and then the villain comes in and does whatever with her, and then the social worker goes into the police station and says, well, if women are raped, it's their fault because they're stupid. She was set up. It was not stupidity, okay? It was, perhaps a little ignorance. I have a multitude of problems with the story. But that is the big one. I don't know if I should go into the concept too much, but beyond that, the Maxx is in two realities, or is he schizophrenic? Is he losing his mind? And the relationship between the social worker and the Maxx, totally inappropriate. Social workers, takes him home and sort of houses him. There has to be some professionalism there. It's immensely chaotic. I don't know how you guys can say this was tightly written, because you don't know what's going on. You don't know if he's even in this reality. This could all be a fever dream for all we know. The villain is cool. I'll give you that. The villain is cool, and obviously he knows more than anything else in this story, which again could be problematic if you take that to another allegorical level. But I'll read that as normal. Again, I have the problems I have with this is that the undertones here are totally inappropriate, and to me, just reek of some kind of counterculture ideology. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. But boy, it struck me right off the bat with constant heading over the head dialogue about misogynistic views. Kind of almost like an anarchist type of politicizing of the situation, the darkness of the world, and the white one, the light one that we don't know is that's the real world or if that's some kind of unhinged delusion that he's going through. The character is okay, I think it has potential, right? But I can't go on potential. I have to go on what I read in this issue. I think that the story going forward may be interesting. But again, I can't go on what may be. I can only go on what is. And on what is, I wanted to give this a 1, but because I was so upset about those subtexts, right? But I do think that there is some interesting elements with the creatures and how they're white in one and black on the other, and how he's dragged down and through the other. I think he's setting up something here. I just don't know what it is. Okay, and that is maybe because I'm not intelligent enough, but I think I'm at least average as far as reading and comprehending this. So I'm with Kenny. I don't know how you can give this a 4. I'm really mystified. 1.5, and that is a gift, a total gift.
Well, that was kind of brutal.
Polarizing.
So this guy, he's supposed to be kind of this rabbit guy with amnesia, traveling back and forth in this mystic world. There's mystic bad guys and little things that are running around as creatures and stuff. But for you, it broke down when the social worker wasn't professional. That's what you're saying.
Amongst other things.
Amongst other things. But it's a comic book, right? And obviously when they forget the woman in the alley, it's the bad guy has done something, right? Cast the spell.
Maybe he did, or maybe that was.
We don't know if he did that or not either.
So. Going on above that the writer wanted to tell us.
Yeah, I mean, again, like David said, it was perfect in that this is one of the first #1 issues we have that had no first issue itis to it. Like we just caught up with and followed along with the story without them explaining everything to you, right? But I mean, there was a little bit.
First issue itis is only one of the many diseases a comic book can suffer from.
Yeah,
it didn't have that ailment, but it's
like you're dying from cancer, right? But you have great muscle tone. You're not gonna notice the muscle tone. You're gonna focus on the cancer.
I liked it. Stop yelling at me.
Well, that's why we're on this panel, man, because we have different views.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if we've ever had such disparity in grade. That's awesome.
Well, let's see what the chat, because that's the most important grader. We'll see what they feel their grade for the story overall was. And maybe some of you guys can harken back to, like I said, the MTV animated series, which this book is word for word, that Maxx series. So whatever it is, whatever you guys feel on the story, please chat, give us a grade, and we'll add it to our total here.
You know what that is? That's the marks of a good Graders Notes episode.
when we're divided on it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess if we're all like, oh, we all
gushing,
the best, right? That's not. I thought I had picked up here another raver. Like when I first grabbed it, I was like, oh yeah, the Maxx.
No.
And the art was definitely better than the raver, and the story was much better. Because like David said, they did that whole kind of disappearing into another world weird thing going on, but it made sense to me here. In the raver, I was like, what just happened? What's going on? Why is this happening?
It was a little more because it was a little tighter, at least it was only one kind of blip there. But in raver, it was all kinds of blips. So
yeah,
I get that.
Yeah, and like in this one, they just it was only a few panels, but it was enough for him to be like, in Australia, I'm a king or whatever,
I have the mane of the lion and the other, it's like Walter Mitty, ish, It's that's what it kind of reminds me, but you don't know because it's so. Again, I'm sure something's good going to come later on, but I can't assume that. I have to give the grade that I saw here.
Yeah, I guess it feels to me like the comic book is going somewhere. Like I want to find out more to me, right?
Man, look at Sam Kieth when he's on. Look at that. Can you make that full? Let's see.
Where are you?
Oh yeah.
Sam Kieth when he was on.
Oh yeah.
I really like his style. Yeah, he can. Like I said, he's kind of hit or miss, man. But when he really nailed it, he did some cool stuff. Like that's a great cover of Marvel Presents. Nice inking. There's no like big empty voids on this image like he did on this cover. You know, fully rendered that bad boy.
It's a very Hulkish Wolverine there.
Yeah. Oh, and his Hulk stuff. He had that classic cover of Wizard Magazine, if you recall.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think is a great Hulk.
Yeah, that is a great Hulk. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, whatever.
I love him, but this particular issue didn't knock my socks off. But he's a pretty cool style.
This is his Hulk, right?
You see what Ruff says here? Who'll be the first to break out the steel chair?
It's like tadpole, man.
Yeah, no doubt.
Any more grades coming in, people? That's your chance.
Maybe a lot of people didn't read this, Gino. Is the only thing I think.
What's up, D-Runk?
Yeah,
that's true.
Which I couldn't blame them, honestly.
Don't forget, guys, we need you to help pick because it's my choice for the next issue. And like I usually do, I have 2 books. And I'm going to pose it to you, the chat, to help decide what it's going to be. So stick around, y'all.
What a viewer interactive show we have here, you know?
Yeah.
On all levels.
All right. Well, doesn't seem like we're getting much chat vote here.
Well, the story part usually gets the fewest votes because you actually have to read it, you know, to get to dive in there.
Well, it looks like the chat was split too because we got a 2.5 right down the middle, so they kind of met us.
Yeah. Was a high guy, a middle guy, and a low guy. And it just came in right in the middle.
I'll say this for those of you who have not read this. Our descriptions aren't really doing it all that much justice. It's very hard to explain this book succinctly in less than 4 minutes. So,
all right,
maybe give that a read for yourself.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of issues we kind of like narrate the plot as we go. So, but this, I don't think any of us really hit the plot points. It's like it is a funky.
It's kind of hard to narrate.
It's very hard. Yeah.
All right. So my turn, and I will hit up the concept of this book. So I think it's a good concept to have like this homeless character. He's traveling in and out of realities, right? There's bad guys. And I think it's a pretty good concept to make it really adult themed as well. Like Kenny was saying, when he was younger, he didn't dig Keith's art. So obviously Keith probably knows that. And he's like, well, I'm not going to be doing books for younger kids. I'm going to focus my stuff for more of adult stuff. Murder, rape, homelessness, weirdness, slutty girls, indifferent cops, right? All that kind of stuff going on in there. McFarlane did a lot of that too. He did. He like all the dumb stuff in Spawn. But then like flipped over with, you know, traveling in between these worlds. And in the other world, they're not a homeless person and a slutty girl. They're a warrior and a queen, you know what I mean? So it's like this weird, you're like, what's going on? Is he imagining this? Is this something he's remembering? Is he imagining? I like the concept of this book. I like that he's homeless. I like that it's really adult orientated. I thought it was a good idea to put this kind of like have a superhero that, you know, obviously we're not even sure if Maxx has superpowers other than being a big guy with, you know, spikes on his gloves, fighting some very bad guy that obviously does have some kind of power, right? So I liked it. I worry for the Maxx because I think that, you know, trying to beat this big bad guy might be like too much of a struggle for him. That creates a sense of tension in the story and a sense of tension in the whole comic book. So the concept of the book, I really dug it. I thought it was smart of MTV to make it into an animated series. Overall, for the concept, I gave it a 4. I thought there was a strong concept in this book. Right, wait, that's all I'm going to say. There you go. So, do you agree with me, or do you not so much agree with me, Roger? Right, you're up next on the list. I'm thinking you're probably not going to agree with me on this.
He's turning chartreuse down there, man. He's ready, man.
He's just like, wait, maybe I'll just go. Maybe I'll skip. Maybe I'll go over to Kenny. No. Uh-oh, Monster's coming out.
Here comes Cthulhu again. Cthulhu Raj.
All right.
Okay. Well, okay. I'll say this. It's a slightly better score than the story, and I'll tell you why. I see your point, Dave, and again, I'm somewhat biased because the Image to me is everything that was wrong with comics in the 90s, right? Except for the creator-owned aspects, it was like the Wild West of comics. It's like anything goes. Make them, large. If you have the Hulk, make him twice as big as the Hulk. If you have Superman, make him twice as powerful as Superman. So it's always trying to up the it's like the grass is greener on this publisher than that one, right? So is that good or bad? Is that positive or negative? I think it has some positive aspects, right? Because you're trying to create something, almost all the archetypes of heroes are taken, right? So you have to sort of make things different in another dimension. So I think they tried to take things to another dimension, right? It's just not one that I particularly find appealing, right? But I do agree that the concept here is that he's trying to make a character that is conflicted, that is confused, that has mental issues, that is perhaps homeless, is perhaps schizophrenic, perhaps can travel amongst dimensions, perhaps there has been reincarnated. Who knows, right? There's a lot here to digest, possibly, right? So yeah, I can see where you want to go on with the story because it's so basic right now. It's so raw. It's like the negative issue-itis. You get nothing about the character except that he has got headaches and that he floats in and out of either reality or another delusional state in his mind, right? But again, those concepts of that he has about the misogynistic views, the anarchist type of mentality throughout that he puts here about law enforcement and governmental agencies. I am no tout for government. Trust me, the less the government, the better. But also, I don't think it's right to sort of just slam them the way that this is. This is a little bit too harsh for me. So that being said, I see what you're saying, and I agree a little bit because it does open the door to perhaps other things going down the line. And as far as open-ended, I give him a little bump there, that concept of trying to tease the reader into going not only here into this next issue, but exploring the universe further. But it kind of, to me, it's almost lowest common denominator kind of stuff, visceral stuff. That's just not what I want to see. I want to see a tight story. I want to see something that is intriguing. I want to see something that really grabs me and wants me to continue to be long-term fan of it. And this one is really more like a short-term happiness kind of thing. But I get it. It's the 90s. I'm a dinosaur, so I'll put myself out that way, right? So all this taken together, I give it a 2 for the content.
2? Man, that's not much of a score. Shocking a 2 from Medarog on this book. So I just can't believe it. Anyway, Kenny, it's up to you now. I know you weren't a fan of the story, but is it just that the story missed, but the concept was good, or is the whole thing just a waste of everybody's time on Creators Notes today?
Should I get my alter ego out? Clawhead.
Yeah.
Clawhead 84. Yeah. Shout out to Miracle. All right. So one thing I will spoiler alert, I will go a little higher on the concept than I did the writing, because I do recognize that they might be trying to have more in store with the 2 dimensions and the fact that those creatures are in both of the worlds. Like, maybe there's something a little smarter than it seems when what they give you in the first issue. I think I agree with Metarog on like the opposite of first issue itis. Like, they introduced that there's those 2 dimensions, but they should have gave me more. You should give me a little bit more to expect than what they did. So I don't think they did a good job. If there is a cool premise lurking in here that pays off at like the end of this first story arc or something, I don't know, and I don't really have a sense of that because they didn't put enough in there. Something tells me that whatever this turns into, and maybe, like I said, Piggy had a comment earlier that maybe informs some of that, but there's, I don't think enough breadcrumbs in the first issue to really intrigue me to say, oh, I think this is going to be a cool concept. But a homeless character, I like that. That's fresh. That's different. Gritty Comics was a dime a dozen in the 90s. So it's not, I don't think it's that trailblazing, that bold, that unique. I mean, dark, gritty, mature tones. Alan Moore was raping chicks a decade before this guy. So it's not particularly fresh or bold. But I think because I found the writing to be pretty weak, maybe I shortchanged the concept that they're trying to set up here. So it's one of those things where I wouldn't be surprised if maybe the concept does turn into something pretty solid. But again, this first issue didn't leave me really feeling one way or the other whether that's true or not. So for that reason, tough to call it. Didn't get enough to get a really good grade from me. I'll go one more. I'll bring it one more notch higher than Roger with the 2. I think 2.5 is probably appropriate because if we're talking concept-wise, they are seeming to layer some things in there that I think is worth giving merit to. So I'm going to go 2.5 on it for concept. But I do think this is a style over substance book.
All right. So I guess to give my concept grade here. So for me, exact opposite. This book is definitely.
You already gave a concept, Did
I give a concept?
You did the concept already.
Give you a 4.
All
You
right.
can do it again. You obviously want to say something. Say it, man. We got plenty
Must
of
be
time.
the other day that you go, right?
See, his mind is fractured right now just thinking about this.
Yeah, I
book.
tell you, he's a victim of this book.
Discombobulated.
I'm the ultimate reality.
There you go.
Well, so I'm going to have to break out this and punish those who don't think this is a good concept. So there it is.
Who did that for you?
There to watch me.
Who did that for you?
That was Doyle Comic Art, and Stone Cold Steve Austin sent it to me as an A-OK. So
that's pretty cool, man.
yeah, the funny thing is when I did an unboxing of it because I didn't know it was in there. I didn't realize it was me. I did at the very end of the video. I took a look back. It's like that looks kind of familiar. I didn't realize it was me at first. So
I think it looks like you.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Oh, I did too. I just wasn't looking that close at it because I was holding everything up for the camera. So, but let me say that I am further disgusted to say that I have to once again agree with Dave. Fractured Psyche or no, I love the concept of this book, and not just the character itself, but in this case, they actually melded it with the appropriate artist. This is the kind of book when you're talking about like a fractured personality that it's okay to have one of those highly stylized artists on there who can make things look wacky and kind of get you into his mind, right? I'm not really going to talk about the art here, but I mean, there's one thing I want to point out to this if my placeholder would open up. There it is. If you notice throughout this book, Maxx is curled up in the fetal position, man.
Mm-hmm.
He's tortured. Like he doesn't know what's going on. I don't think he knows what reality is. Where he's at.
That was like me while I was reading the book.
Yeah, that's some of the people like that. But I think it was a nice touch, and I think the concept was excellent because, like I said, I think they matched up the correct artist for this type of book. It's something different. Yes, like Cloak and Dagger in the early 80s. Yes, they were living on the streets or whatever. But it was so saccharine, and it's like, we're going to fight drug dealers and, we're the good guys and we stop the bad guys. This is much more shades of gray here because we don't even know if he's really a good guy. In his fractured state of mind, maybe he's killing innocent people. We don't know it yet. But so the story leaves that open for you to interpret, at least later on. Kenny's right. There's a lot of gritty books in the 90s, but this one's exceptionally gritty, talking about, like I said, the rape and murder of women out there. You have a very unsympathetic female counterpart to the Maxx there, kind of blaming them, kind of whore shaming, in other words, like some people will do at the clubs or whatever. But so it was just different and interesting. And we don't even know if the big bad guy, for one, that we don't know if he exists. We think he does because the other two teenagers meet him at the end, right? But we don't know if he's really the bad guy or not. We don't know if he's doing these bad things we heard about. So there's that. Maybe he's actually the wise sage trying to help Maxx or something. And who knows, whatever. But maybe he's just a Batman without a cause. And I just think the concept was very good. I've gone on record to say that I don't like Image books. I never have enjoyed one. This is about the only one I've ever read that I've enjoyed and wanted to read more of. I just thought a lot of things came together very well in this book for the overall concept. You got a cover that make people want to spend money, probably. And, Image was so hot. Now, keep in mind, I had already stopped collecting by this point. Image had not even, they might have just started vacating Marvel at that point, but they weren't even a company yet. So I had never been exposed to a lot of Image books, right? But all the ones that I did read, I didn't care for them. But this one I did. And this one actually made me think about it afterwards. I feel sorry for Maxx, man. I really do. I empathize with this guy. It's like, you just get, how many superheroes you see getting picked up by the police and taken to the drunk tank, This is like, and he obviously looks like he could just break that car in half or whatever. He just lays there, curls up in the fetal position and has this tormented stuff going on in his mind. So I just thought it was a cool concept, kind of a brave concept from an indie company who's trying to get its footing. Cause this is not like the kind of character I think it would have a huge commercial market appeal, which is kind of a detriment for a concept if you get down to it. But I mean, it's like, you expect them, like you said, to build better Superman, build better Hulks, build better Wonder Woman, whatever, as a new fledgling company. And this character is as far away from any of that as possible. So I'm going to go with Dave on this. I give this a 4. I think it's a very solid concept for a company that usually relied on style over substance. And I think there's a little more substance in this book than some people give it credit for. So 4.
Agreed. All right. So is that everybody on the concept?
Unless you want to go again. I know you had some more things to say. So
I was ready to give a whole nother grade. Another 4.
Was it going to be 4 again?
Yeah, 4.
Our first 8 on Graders Notes, everybody.
Just because it's on your channel doesn't mean you can double dip, America.
All right. So let's get the chat involved. Tell us what you guys felt like the concept was. Was this totally out to lunch? Was it something that you could really bite into and get behind as a concept? Was it deserved? Or was it just another one of those Image money grabs? Let us know in the chat, please.
I never felt this was a money grab. I never got that vibe from it. I think there is definitely a creative aspect to it. I just think it's a very troubling creative aspect. But it is definitely there.
I'm sure he probably made more money off this book than any other book. Like once they had an animated series, he would have got paid way more, right?
I think royalties and residuals to this day, probably. But
alone, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's gone on. It's got Maxx versus the Batman and all kinds.
Yeah, I was about to mention that wasn't that long ago that they did. I think it was last year that they put out a Batman Maxx miniseries.
Oh, really?
So he's still,
So the character carried on because, like I said, I was out of the scene by then, so I didn't.
Somewhat. I mean, I think that was after a bit of a hiatus for the character.
Mm.
So I don't think he adored like Spawn or something, but
I can definitely see this.
I know that.
Yeah, he'd definitely be more like an indie book kind of thing. I'd see him more as a dark horse character than I would as a standard bearer for like Marvel, DC, or Image or
No.
something. So
No, this one would never fly. It may be in the vertical line, but no, it wouldn't fly otherwise.
Okay. Did we get any chat grades?
we got one. Makes it easy to score. So
Yeah.
let's see how many more. Change.
Hey, George.
Let your voice be heard.
I think looks like Biggie had to go to bed or something. I mean, he's not around. I'm sure he would have had a vote in there.
You know, I work early, people. I still stay up.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, but you're
Kenny's out there working.
required. You know, it's like it's in the contract. You came up with this. You got to be around.
That's right. It's not even 8 o'clock.
Well,
It's
for
a little
you,
later for us here, but
Yeah, it's 10 for them.
it's creeping on 10.
9 for me.
no vote shaming. Yeah. Well, you can't be vote shaming if there's only one.
You're right.
There's only
You're right,
one.
George. You're right.
It's
Check
the wrong
his
score.
concept
but
for
we'll
2.
take it. So looks like there's the 3. So now we got 2.5.
2.5.
We've
There
made
we go.
serviceable.
Bam.
I think
It's going up.
Trust.
It's going up.
All right. Well, maybe someone else will pop in a grade or two out there. But we'll do the overall while we're waiting for that kind of stuff. So overall, I think I will start with you, Roger. No, you know what? I'm going to end with you. I'm going to start with you, Dave.
Give me 1 second
A
here.
good call. That's a good call, Miracle.
Oh, Comic Mag Musings typed one in.
You went even lower than I did.
All right. Oh, that's going to screw things up. Oh, now. All right. Hold on 1 second, guys. Let me fix the math
And
here.
we got a 2.5 now, Gino.
Oh,
Hey-oh. Where's Epic Man when you need him? All right. So
maybe
we got
there's a delay.
2 plus 3. 5.
Glad you guys are hanging out. I'm going to need your help soon.
So chat score is a 2.25 now for the concept.
That's a 2.
That's still 2.5. Yeah, we got to round up, right?
We round up, yeah.
Oh,
It changes nothing. Oh, but your voice was out there, so let it be known. Okay, sorry. So let's get into this overall grade here. Let me start out by saying, I just said it a few minutes ago, I am not a fan of Image Comics. I mean, it just wasn't my bag, but I had already started getting out. A lot of what I think was going wrong with comics at the time was because of the McFarlanes and the Liefelds, out there, who the whole book was sold on the cover. That was just, oh, McFarlane worked on that book. Okay. $10 next month. That's what it's just going to be. And it was just like so bad with those guys. And I never understood it, because those just weren't the artists that I liked. I didn't understand the hoopla, but whatever. It was cool. They went out and did their thing, but as a general principle, I didn't like their books that much. I just didn't think the characters were all that interesting or well written. But I enjoyed this book a lot more than I thought I would, actually. I was kind of dreading it because I'd never actually read it before, and pleasantly surprised. So let's just go into my grades real fast. Gave the cover 3.5. It was 3 or 3.5. I couldn't figure it, but it just does the job so much of grabbing the eye and making you do a double take to maybe sit there and pick it up. I gave it an extra half a point there. So 3.5. It was definitely my least favorite part of the book, though. The interior art gave that also a 3.5. As I said, in the concept, I think the artist was matched up very well with the subject material. Seeing as he wrote it, I guess that makes sense, right? But that's the character lends itself well to Mr. Kieth's style. So it's not always my cup of tea, and I'm not like big on highly stylized. I thought it was pretty tastefully done for the most part. A lot of consistency issues, though, from page to page and panel to panel. And I can see how the wacky panel setup would bother some people, but for the most part, I thought it was pretty good. So I gave that 3.5 as well. Where the scores really got higher was the story. Interesting stuff, at least to me. I know 2 of my co-graders here did not find the interesting things that I found so interesting, but I did. I wanted to read more about this guy, and that to me is usually the ultimate achievement for a comic book, to want to pick up issue 2 and keep going. And right now I'm thinking about the guy, and I always have that vision of that poor guy just laying on that freaking dirty police car seat or on the floor of the prison cell, just curled up in a ball, and just a mentally tortured kind of character. It's just interesting. I feel for him. So I can empathize with the character. I think the concept is cool. We don't know what's real, what's not real so much yet. And it's just, he's in a dirty, dingy world, and it just injured me. So I gave it a 4 actually for story, and I gave concept the same score. I think most of everything came together really well for this book. And I think it just fit. Most stuff here fit the book perfectly. The subject matter went with the art, and the fractured nature of either his psyche or the world that he's inhabiting is just interesting. And so I gave it a 4. I think they did a lot of cool things. They made a hero that's sympathetic. They made him we don't know what his power set is. We don't know if he's even a good guy. We think he's a good guy, but maybe he's beating up innocent people or killing innocent people thinking he's a good guy. Who knows? But I thought it was a really cool concept. So I gave that a 4 as well. And that brought my overall score to a 3.75 with math. So I had to round up. So I actually gave this book a 4, believe it or not. So excellent, I think.
You're on mute. There you go.
I'm gonna tackle the concept next here.
The overall.
And
the overall this time.
You're on concept again. Just say it. You know you want to say
it. The
concept really got me. I just love it. Anyway, so overall, I thought the art was weak. You know, not a Keith fan. Don't like his Wolverine. Don't like his Hulks. Don't like the stuff he does. Don't like his overinking. The cover was like the figure on the cover is awful, but the title was nice. But then the story just came alive for me, and it really drew me in, and kept me going along. So I thought the concept and the story were really, really good. And I thought the art and everything was really, really bad. But I think the story makes it worth reading. And it makes me want to read number 2, even getting past the artwork. The artwork I can deal with. It'll at least lead me along in the story. But the story has to be good for me to enjoy the book. And I think the story was good. I thought the concept was good, and it kept my interest. So for an overall, I gave it a 3.5. Right? Well worth going out and reading. All right, Kenneth, how about you, sir?
Okay. This is an interesting episode, man, because we have, Miracle just saying, I love the story. It's phenomenal. But Sam Kieth's art, especially his Hulk and Wolverine, sucks. It's terrible. And I'm like, man, I really dig the art. I especially am a big fan of his Hulk and Wolverine work. And this story is trash. You can't get a more polarizing issue, man. So the cover I thought was not his best work, but definitely had a good sense of design to it, and the colors really popped well. And I think I went 2.5 on that. The interior artwork, I dig. I really had to get past him taking so many liberties with the panel shapes, because that really annoys me. You have to really be on your A game to mess with panels like that and for it to look good, in my opinion. This was just doing it for the sake of doing it, to be like, check this out. This is going to be edgy, which is exactly how I feel about the story. Check out this edgy stuff that's going on, dude. But nothing really resonated with me. The fact of the plight of the social worker didn't resonate with me. The fact that he's like schizophrenic or fever dreams or whatever it is, going to a different dimension. He's homeless and this world sucks. But he also has this dreamland in Australia. And clearly they don't say it, but the social worker girl is like a goddess there. I didn't find that to be too profound. I'm like, okay, maybe he like disconnects. He lives in a cardboard box, because he mentioned before that he like visualizes watching Cheers in the cardboard box to entertain himself. Okay, he probably detaches and like has a coping mechanism. Got it. The villain is completely underdeveloped. I don't know what his deal is. I really don't see what these guys are so impressed about, frankly, with the story. Didn't do it for me. I thought the art was cool. Stylized, moments of you missed the mark there, but moments of sweet, awesome, I like it, different, not adhering to proportions and the rules of the traditional stuff. I like a break from that stuff sometimes, and I think he does it well. Acquired taste for sure, because it took me 30 odd years to appreciate it, but I do now. I really think he has a good handle of. He has a good comic book art style. Concept, I don't think too much of the concept. Again, to me, this is an art and style heavy comic, art and style heavy company in this time. Not anymore. Granted, I got to give Image its props. It's really leaned on, I think, more writer focused. It's so funny. Image is the opposite now of what it was then. The art is like a complete afterthought. Really basic drawings. Like when I look at an Image book now, I'm like, hey, what was the page rate for these guys, these jabronis you're hiring? What are they getting, $10 a page? This is really rudimentary stuff on some of these books. You could tell it's really writer and concept heavy. The real reason is because scripts are what you can sell to Netflix to adapt. You can't adapt pages. You know what I'm saying? So the model has flipped. It's writer heavy now because they want to sell their concepts to these streaming networks and movies and blah, blah, blah. They don't care about the comic industry. They all want a TV show. That's all they care about. Anyway. But yeah, this is concept-wise what you do. The standard fare from Image, art heavy. A little. I gotta give it a little different. It's not like your X-Force. I'm sorry, Youngblood type stuff. It seems like maybe a little more heady and out there than like Youngblood type standard. I don't think this is a cash grab like Metarog said. I'll give it points for it. Seems like he's going for something, but didn't want to go along for the ride. So So overall, like I said, I've said, not a lot of high scores here, but I did think that the cover was interesting enough. Middle of the road grade there. I graded it like a 3.5 on the art because I was into it, and then the story and concept really tanked it back down for me. So I think a fair grade for this one is a 2.5 for my overall grade. Bam.
Nice.
Thank you.
Very nice.
2.5.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming out. That's been greater. So
Prepare the canisters of napalm.
Hello, I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm adding some. I'm forgetting people. No. We're just waiting, saving the best for last. Metarog, so far this book has not impressed you in any way.
No.
You're stealing my thunder with the curmudgeon here today.
I do.
How did you feel overall with this baby? I'm just kidding you.
Well, let me just bring in my friend, just as an escape mechanism. This is a Monstro segment, okay? Okay, it's not all bad, guys. Let's focus on the positive here. The cover, I think, is striking. It gets the job done. It gets your attention. It's, again, over stylized, and it has some issues with those, propeller thighs and the, bloody explosive diarrhea in the back, etc. But certainly with all those issues, I think that you have a balance, right? And if you're talking about wanting to sell this comic, I think the cover does the job for that. But it has those troubling elements to me that just turns me off. But I recognize that it is an effective cover. But because of those elements that are very troublesome, I give it a 2.5 down the middle. But if I was just grading it on the art itself, it'd probably be about a 3. The story, oh my gosh, I could go on and on about this, but I won't, because I think you can go back and see my segment, right? The overtones and the allegorical showings of the characters, are very telling. Especially when you're talking about a social worker, having beliefs that the victims are the cause of their own downfalls. That just, if my wife read this, she would rip it up and burn it, okay? Because she is a social worker at MSW. And I know how much she cares for clients and how much that this is so wrong, right? But I realize this is a wacky, different reality. So I sort of get it. But man, even with that, even taking that out, right? There's a lot of just fractured, not only panels, the weird layouts, the pillars and the puzzle pieces and the isometric and then the 45-degree angles. They're just very distracting to the story. And I think that is what detracts it even more than those ideological problems, although those are very troublesome. So 1.5. Art, I think, was appropriate for this type of, gritty, kind of surreal and very, visceral kind of concept, that world that they want to put us in. Again, the problems I had is that sometimes it's just so overly stylized in some parts. Those little imps are, using the phone. Nobody's noticing them. The policemen like shadows. Again, those were, I think, allegorical. But again, give me something that's a little more concrete so that I know at least where the reference points are in the art. And sometimes they were just so out there. But the villain, I think, was well drawn, and the actual story elements in the art were well done. But the layouts and the designs were just so troublesome and distracting. So 2.5. Concept, I just talked about it. I'm not going to go into too much. I think there are some good areas here where this concept could go. Talking about the alternate realities and sort of focusing on these social issues. But I think the focus is like so stark and so negative that it kind of turned me off. Not in any way a cash grab. I think there is an idea here going forward that has depth. But again, I have to grade it on what I see before me, right? So, but it's still better than the story because at least it has the fact that these are creator owned and that this is an idea going forward in the head of the creator. So I kind of give him a little more leeway because at least we know that this is not just a snapshot. This is more of a longitudinal concept for him. So I see potential, but I can't just give him more on potential too. And overall, I'm afraid I'm going the lowest of all you guys because cover and art are 2.5. Concept was 2. The story, that is where my biggest bugaboo is. That's where I give the most weight. And that is where this really dropped the ball, right? And so because of that, I can only give this a 2, not even serviceable.
Well, that is pretty harsh grade, sorry. 2 overall. Wow. I think that's probably one of the lowest scores I've ever seen you give overall.
Yeah, I know.
I think you gave a higher score to Raver.
Well, let's check the
Oh, you got the
see,
that wasn't too long ago.
I think I gave it a 1.5.
I gotta go back into Grader's notes. Raver number 1 overall, he gave that one a 1.5.
Oof. So do you really think this comic book is that bad? As bad as Raver?
Not as bad. I said 2. It's a 2.
He got 2, so it's half a point higher.
Oh,
Not as bad.
half a point.
It has potential. It just wasn't realized in this comic.
Whatever. I liked it. I'm gonna read issue number 2.
Hey, I like E-Man, and trust me, if we grade that one ever, you guys are probably not going to like it the way I do.
What one?
E-Man.
What? Oh, E-Man. Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, probably not. Okay. So I think that brings the review part of the show all to an end here. Really appreciate everybody that gave us a grade in the chat. Stick around for a little bit because we're going to take some time to pick next week's or next episode's book, which will happen in 2 weeks from now, and it will happen on Comic Head 84's channel. So join us then. I'm sure that there'll be a much more lively chat as he gets a very good streaming audience with his channel. But we'll save Kenny for last since he's going to throw up the comic book for us to pick. Dave, what's going to happen? I know you've been on a little bit of a break, but what is coming up on your channel, sir?
Yeah, I've been kind of recharging the YouTube batteries a little bit. You know, you gotta step away from it. It turns into a full-time job sometimes. So with no payoff. So mostly just more review stuff coming up here. Just started getting out my music reviews again for people, and I need to get my comic book cover of the week going again. I won't be this weekend. I'm probably do a lot of motovlogging this weekend, going on a big motorcycle trip this weekend. So, right. But I do have my Land of the Dead review coming up here probably next week. It's going to put me behind. I was going to work on it this weekend, but not going to be time. So that will be coming down the pipe, and that'll pretty much finish off my George Romero of the Dead series. I don't know if I'm going to go into the last like 2 he did because they were really awful, but we'll see if I feel like subjecting myself to it. But starting up my,
I would say.
Oh yeah, man, they're just rough. And Land of the Dead itself, spoiler alert, it was sucky too. But I might pull a Mr. Miracle on that one. Freaking just go ham. So prepare yourself. Get the salt. The salt must flow, as they say. So, oh, by the way, that reminded me. That was an excellent point, Kenny, about comic books wanting to just be Netflix shows now. It's so obvious. But anyway, so yeah, I got my Star Trek Next Generation reviews they're going again. So I'll have another one of those up here probably next week as well. So yeah, just more review content and nothing else too out of the ordinary right now.
All right. Well, I think everything's out of the ordinary in your channel. You never know what you're going to get, sir.
True. I'm like a box of chocolates.
We lost him. Oh,
he bouncing.
He bounced.
He's like the Maxx, man. He's a man of mystery.
Yeah, he's in an alternate reality.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's okay. We'll hit up the mighty Metarog here, sir. What do you have coming up on your channel?
I don't think there's anything going on this weekend. I'm gonna be, I think, with Gray Man's channel. We're gonna be doing some showing some comics about animals and talking about how they're used in comics, things like that. I think that's Saturday afternoon. But that's not gospel. My memory is a little bit iffy there. Tuesday, I'll have a special video. I think I'm doing it on errors, comic book errors, like coloring errors, printing errors, things like that. Because I found like a bunch in the last few weeks, and I figured, might be interesting. And then, of course, the roundup on Thursday. So that's about it.
That does sound interesting. I like when they have people catch the error. Like art errors or continuity errors, whatever errors or whatever, right? No prizes. Is that what you're getting? You're gonna be looking to get a retroactive no prize?
Yeah, I think I'm about 30 years too late for that one.
Yeah, it's a little over I don't know if they give the no prize anymore.
Oh, you know what?
Page anymore.
I forgot. I completely forgot. Tomorrow night I should be doing a live stream, and we should be doing a live movie watch with Jay over easy mode and myself. We're gonna be live watching, and since it's public domain, we're going to be showing it as well as Yojimbo. So we're going to be doing that tomorrow night too on the channel. So
wow,
yeah, nice.
Should be around 7:30, 8 o'clock, I think, depending. I'll put a thumbnail out there, but I forgot to mention that. Thank you, Jackson Roker.
Very cool.
Try to make it.
And of course, I dropped another undervalued video yesterday. If anybody wants to, follow back to my channel and check that out, that'd be great. And I'll be putting out more of them. I've been floating around a little bit. There's some people asking me to be doing stuff and whatnot. So you'll find me out on YouTube somewhere. At least you'll find me in the chat somewhere. And I don't know what happened. Kenny, is he coming back?
He sometimes has internet issues, so it could be something happened.
He probably had, probably had a McFarlane book or a Liefeld book to choose from. That's why he jetted, according to chat over there. So
exploded into nothing.
The shame of it all.
I thought he got that all fixed up because, like, he said he had his.
I was reading it on image, trying to
Pit.
trying to sort of trying to get myself, out of the Bronze Age mood, but apparently it just didn't work.
I guess not.
That Youngblood's book was terrible. I don't remember what I rated that at. While we're waiting for Kenny, let's see if I can find out. Let's see.
Yeah.
Whose pick was that? I don't remember whose pick that was.
Wasn't mine.
Was that Unruly?
Oh, there he is. Wait, he's back.
Oh, he's back.
Okay, I'm back, baby.
There he is. What happened?
What happened?
I can't call it, man. I don't know.
All right, so the burritos hit hard. You got to make a dash. Yep.
Okay, brother. The solo layout. Tell us what's going on your channel, and then show us what you've got for picks.
Okay. My channel. Don't worry about it. Nothing special, guys. Just yeah, I don't think there's anything special.
Mega Power Hour tomorrow.
Mega Power Hour. And I'm gonna try to get one of the Wizard Top 10 ones done. I know I didn't get one done last week, and I have a special live edition that I still need to coordinate. But
cool.
I'll keep you posted. Here's the pick.
Come on the live edition.
Huh?
I said I want to come on a live edition.
Ooh.
I could do that with you.
Okay.
A hot picks one? Yeah, that'd be cool. Anyway, go ahead, do your thing. Sorry.
No worries. Option 1. Dynamite Comics. Masks. Number 1. Okay. Team up with these pulp heroes. Notable thing is Alex Ross in. I think I'm showing the ads.
Look at all those ads.
Yeah. Oh,
beautiful ad.
This thing is chock full.
A modern book for you.
Smoke, dude. But yeah, Alex Ross interior art, which isn't particularly common, So that's option 1. A book that I like. So both these books I like. So we'll see. It's that one. And then secondly, a run that I don't remember how good the first issue in particular is, but I know I devoured these trades when I got my hands on them. One of my favorite X runs is Uncanny X-Force by Rick Remender with this team. This is the run that made me such a big Phantom X fan. Uncanny X-Force with artwork from the man Jerome Opeña inside, So yeah, those are the two that I was thinking. Masks 1 or Uncanny X-Force number 1.
Man,
modern
books.
Yeah, I figured I was gonna go modern. It's been a while since we've been delving in the 70s through 90s for a while. I'm bringing us a little more modern, baby.
Well, that's when comic books die anyway. So anything after that, we're just reviewing corpses. So
are we leaving this up to the chat?
Oh, that's right, D-Rum. I gotta remember my next pick has to be X-Men Alpha.
Oh man,
I promised him we would do Alpha, and I'd like.
So looks like.
Oh.
So far, it looks like Maxx is winning.
Yeah, I'd like to read a book about like transforming cars and like when they're fighting those Venom guys. Oh, it's not that book.
Yeah.
Oh right, no, not that man.
When did X-Force pick up the Uncanny title? I'm curious now. Is that a newer development?
Yeah, every title's got Uncanny.
Early
the Uncanny Avengers, the Uncanny X-Men, the Uncanny Spider-Man, the
Uncanny Ultimates, the Uncanny Uncanny.
I know. But this is a great run. Uncanny X-Force is the best X-Force run.
That remains to be seen, young Padawan.
Yeah.
Hey, I remember Boom Boom and Warpath or Warchild, whatever his name was. So that's a big claim.
The American Indian Warpath.
Yeah. Warpath, that's what it was. Okay, a bit of a long time.
There's quite a team here. Quite a team up.
Was that Psylocke? Is that Psylocke, Wolverine? I can't see it on the right who that is.
Yeah, Deadpool, Phantom X.
Oh, okay, I didn't know who that is.
And
right.
Archangel.
I love Archangel, man. He was so hot back in the late 80s, early 90s. Then Apocalypse made him a Horseman. It was awesome. He was a good
right after the Apocalypse turned him into the Archangel, an X Factor. Yeah, he was very hot.
Okay, so what do we get for a vote here? Drum roll,
wow.
I've got X-Force. Alpha has 2 votes. X-Force. Alpha isn't even on the vote.
Yeah, Alpha's not.
I got X-Force, 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 X-Force.
Wow.
I guess we're going with X-Force.
Man, that's the second trying to use some mask when we haven't been able to use it.
I have tried to sell masks twice.
Yep.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pick it one of these days.
Freaking, it's still in the undercard.
Yeah.
You probably have better luck selling the one about the guys with the cars and the helmets.
Always a bridesmaid, never a bride.
Yeah. I think it'd be a fun one to review. We'll do it. We'll do it soon, I'm sure. So, bam, there it is. Uncanny X-Force #1. Not a big money book. I think if you want to pick up a hard copy, I don't think you'll have a hard time finding it. It's not like a big premiere issue or anything.
Uncanny X-Force 1. Okay.
Just get the trade. Let me give you some advice. Just get the trade because you're going to want to continue.
As soon as I get my copy, I'm taking a Sharpie and knocking that Uncanny off of there. So lame. I can't believe they did that.
Otherwise, you're renumbering, you know?
All right. I'm calling it. We're going to pull the plug right here, guys. We picked our book, Uncanny X-Force. #1 will be our next review on Comic Head 84's channel. That will be on October 14th, I believe. So, we have a great chat. They follow us around. We'll all find each other on Comic Kid 84's channel next time. I'm sure the computer stuff will go much smoother as Kenny's in charge of all that kind of thing. And but I do my best. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us. Thanks everybody who stuck with this whole thing for the last 2 hours with us. And the Maxx was either a hit or a miss on this one. Guess you're just going to have to go read it and find out for yourself. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. And we will see you next time.